So I was watching a 60 Minutes article, and they had the last article about the Sovereign Citizen movement, which I hadn't really heard of. And after that, I did some research on sovereign citizens, and I do sympathize with some of their ideas, their rationale about not wanting to be intruded on by the government, and how it's wrong that big banks are being bailed out while normal people are being evicted from their normal homes. That's wrong. However, I think that a lot of the sovereign citizens have gone, their tactics are completely uh, bad tactics, not only for society, but for themselves. For example, using the threat of violence against any police officers or anyone else for that matter is not appropriate. And it's more harmful, actually, most harmful to the sovereign citizen than it is to anyone else. If you threaten or use violence against the government, you will be smashed, and no one will really care very much. If you pull out a gun on a cop, they will smash you. You might possibly be able to get one of them, but another one will kill you and drag your body out, and no one will really care. So if you really are into being opposed to the system, opposed to the government, the best thing you could do counterintuitively actually is to support peace, be as peaceful as possible. If if the government were going to smash you and they came into your house, and then the off chance they shot you and you're totally unarmed, there would be a huge uproar. The police, the personal police officer who did it, would almost certainly go to jail if he did not have a weapon, and all of his family's assets would basically be seized. If, on the other hand, you pulled out a weapon or even showed a weapon, the police would shoot you to pieces and simply drag your body out. And people who read about it the next day would say, well, he had a weapon, so screw him. He shouldn't have been messing with a weapon in the first place when the police are around. And then they'd turn the pages in the newspaper. And as I said, no one would really care. So there's that. Next point is, I've heard, when I did some of the research, I've heard a lot of sovereign citizens, when they get pulled over by the police, they try to be totally non-cooperative. For example, if a police officer asks their name, they'll simply say something like, I'm a free man traveling in a free country, which I could sort of sympathize again with. I don't like being harassed by authority figures. If I'm on a road trip, who does? But if you choose to drive a car, then you are responsible. And that's not a God-given right to drive on public roads. You have to take responsibility. So if you get pulled over, you have to give the police officers your name and try to be as cooperative as possible. They're just doing their job. Make it as easy on yourself, make it as easy on the cop, and be on your way. And so there's that. It's important to, if you would just want to stay home, be a sovereign citizen and not get involved in society and not walk on public streets, not drive on public streets, then you don't have to have a driver's license and you don't have to give anyone your name. But if you choose to drive on public streets, then that's a privilege and you have to be responsible. Also, obviously, you have to have insurance in case you crash. That's another part of being responsible. Obviously, a lot of them talk about being responsible gun owners, but being a responsible gun owner isn't the only thing. You have to be a responsible citizen. And if you're a citizen who chooses to drive, being willing and able to provide legitimate government-issued ID is a must. If you don't want to do that, don't drive. It's fine. You could stay at home and do whatever you want at home. But that's the main point. Using violence or the threat of violence is absolutely ineffective. You will be smashed if you threaten violence, or especially if you use violence against the government. It's not effective. you'll be smashed and nobody will care because you'll just be seen as a crazy vigilante. If on the other hand you're very serious about the system and you decide to use absolute peace, for example, Henry David Thoreau, others simply refused to pay their taxes. They didn't have any guns, but they wouldn't pay their taxes, and it was more effective. Society greatly respected them. They published books, and it had a big influence. If Henry David Thoreau had a gun and threatened police officers, they would have just shot him and nobody would have cared. Same with Gandhi. He brought down the British Empire in India. If Gandhi had pulled out a gun on the British officers, they would have just shot him to pieces. No problem. Nobody would have really cared. But since he was peaceful and he resisted the oppressive British government peacefully, he was able to bring down the entire British regime in India, which was their the jewel of their empire. So peaceful tactics are much more effective than violent tactics. Don't use violent tactics. I hope this gets out and makes somewhat of a difference. I'd like to hear your comments. Don't do just smart-ass insulting comments. I mean, I guess I could lie and say I don't care, but I would care a little bit. So, and that also wouldn't be very effective. So just, if you want to post an intellectual comment, be glad to hear it. If you post an insulting comment, I'll just sort of be pissed off and then delete it from my email at least, and then move on. Anyway, look forward to hearing from you. Peace is better. And if you choose to drive, you have to be responsible, have a government ID, have insurance. That's it.